Welcome to the Financial Armor Show. My name is Brad Cooper, the president of Cooper Financial Investments. And I want to welcome, as always, my amazing, awesome co-host, Tony Shore. How are you doing today, Tony?
Oh, I'm doing great, Brad. Good to see you. Great to be
Same
here with
here.
you. Yeah. Yeah, I've had a great week so far and just excited about the show today. We've got a pretty good, pretty important topic. You've got one
Yes.
lined up for us. But you know what? It's that time of year. I'm from Minnesota and we've got I'm not used to this. We have two Minnesota professional teams in playoffs right now.
Wow. That's a miracle.
It's a miracle. The Minnesota Timberwolves are in the
Yes.
NBA playoffs and doing really well, and the Minnesota Wild are in the playoffs, and they just looks like they're going to beat Dallas, I think, in this first series in the
Great.
Stanley Cup Finals. So playoffs. So yeah. So I've been excited. I've been watching some. My wife and I have been trying to follow the games,
Right.
and in between the raindrops, we've been trying to get out and get some work done, spring work. A friend of mine wrote a song called "Walk Between the Raindrops." I always like that one. Walk between the raindrops if you can.
Now, you may want to explain a little bit more what raindrops are here to our Arizona listeners.
Oh yeah, you guys haven't been getting the rain that we've been getting up in Minnesota.
We did
Uh,
get some back in January when
oh,
you were down, right?
right. It actually did rain a little bit. But yeah. I recommend our listeners and viewers check out the song called "Walk Between the Raindrops" by Adam
Okay.
Again. A great group, beautiful lyrics.
Yes.
Very meaningful, but great lyrics. Walk between the raindrops if you can. Yeah. So, but that's a little harder to do. It's easier said than
That's
done, right?
that's true. Well, things have been great down here in Arizona for us too. Tyler Cote, one of my financial service professionals, just got
Yep.
married last night. So we
Awesome.
all had a wonderful time at the wedding, and just so
That's
excited
neat.
for him and his beautiful bride Tessa and their 3.5-year-old son Leo. So
Wow, that's
that's
great. Yeah, the wedding was yesterday. That's
yes,
beautiful. Yeah, I'm so glad you told me about that, and I know
yes.
everybody around there is excited. You even let people come into the office a little late today because of the
You know
wedding, right?
what? I was very generous. Monday morning, I told everyone to sleep in an extra hour or two, and we opened a little bit later this morning. So, but yeah, that, and then I guess I'm expecting two granddaughters, one in the next couple weeks, and another
Wow.
one in the next couple months. So,
Wow.
life couldn't be any better for us.
Yeah.
And then just the wonderful meetings and reviews that we're doing with our friends, our clients, and a lot of new people coming through our office too, as well, Tony, which is exciting. So a lot going on, and really looking forward to the summer. Other than the 115-degree temperatures in July,
Right.
August, and September.
Yeah. That's it'll be here soon enough. Don't
Yes,
bring it on before we're ready for those
you're
temps.
right.
But yeah, I'm thinking about I'll probably be down there sometime in June or July when it's hot and go up into the mountains though.
There you go. Go up north. The temperatures are a little bit more attractive, kind of like Minnesota
Yeah,
in the
exactly.
summer.
Exactly. Well, hey, Brad, we're talking about long-term care myths and
Right.
facts, and I think this topic, obviously, it's something I've been dealing with my own parents,
Yes.
and it is so important, and so many people put it off and don't deal with it because I don't know, because they're afraid or they just don't want to think about that, or they think for some reason, oh, that's not me. My wife and I won't need long term care, right? Do
Right.
you hear that?
All the time. And Tony, we've talked about this topic several times, and we're this is a conversation we're having, head on with everyone that comes through our office, new people, clients, even at an event we did a couple weeks ago. We had a special speaker just on this topic, and I want to bring it up again because it is so important. It's one of the top risks that you, Tony, myself, retirees will go through in the years to come. It's not a question if, it's just a question of when. And there's such a high percentage that you or me will either experience assisted living care, long term care, and it's not cheap. And it's a
No.
very stressful decision if you don't make it yourself. You allow your children to get involved. And if they're in the process and they're making all the decisions, Tony, I can tell you it is very stressful. I'm talking from
Oh,
experience. I know you are as well. So, the theme of today's, uh, message is going to be proactive, you know, be proactive, prepare, and hopefully, we're going to share, several different, ideas, solutions, strategies that may help you. But, that's where we're having conversations daily on as far as being prepared with long-term care.
yeah. Well, and I think this is huge because obviously, like you said, it's very expensive
Yes.
and it can really derail somebody's whole retirement. It can derail, things for your loved ones if you planned on passing anything along. Both my parents are now in long-term skilled nursing care
Wow.
facilities
I'm sorry.
because of Parkinson's. Yeah, and it is what it is.
Right.
And they are getting good care, but it's $11,000 a month for just my mom. Um,
Wow.
and so that's, I mean, when people think about that, $11,000 a month. That's
That's
yeah,
That's almost all of a person's Social Security,
yeah,
pension, and a big portion of their assets.
yeah,
So
yeah.
what's that gonna do to all the money they have worked
Worked so
for,
hard for, yeah,
sacrificed for the last 40, 50 years that I guarantee I haven't met them, Tony, but I guarantee they wanted that money to go to their children, their
right,
grandchildren. But
yeah.
now it's not, is it?
No. No, and, it starts lower, with assisted living can
Right.
be anywhere between 3 and $5,000 or $6,000, and then in-home healthcare is a little more, and then adult daycare, and then nursing home. If you have to go into eventually, if you have a debilitating disease or you can't, feed or bathe yourself, get in and out of
Right.
bed, go to the restroom, then you have to be in a 24/7 care facility. I mean,
Yeah.
aging in place at home is great, but it only works up to a point, right? And there was a point where my dad got so bad he couldn't help take care of my mom, so she went in, and then he eventually couldn't take care of himself, so then he had to go in. And my wife and I both work, so we toyed with, can we move them in here? And
Right.
in a lot of cases, if you and your spouse work, um, and depending on the location where they live, where you live, um, some people might think, oh, well, we'll take care of it as a family. Well, yeah, I'll tell you what,
Yes,
it's a lot. It's a
it
lot.
is.
Yeah.
And most families can't do that. I know we all have good intentions. I just look back at my grandmother who moved in with my mom and dad once my grandfather passed away. This has been years ago. And
Sure.
my mom was retired by then. She and my dad did everything in their power for the first year and a half, 2 years to take care of grandma. Then they weren't equipped. They're not
Right.
nurses. They could not
Right.
stay up, especially at their age, then 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then
Oh,
fast forward, my dad, my mom, and our family did everything we could for my dad to keep him home. But
yeah.
then he ended up going to assisted living
Of
care, nursing
course.
home.
Yep.
And we're going to break down, Tony, the cost a little bit more in detail. And, you know, the resource that I pulled a lot of information from that's pretty current, Kiplinger article. It's time to bust these long-term care myths and face some very uncomfortable truths when it comes to long-term care, healthcare
Okay.
expenses. And Fidelity did a study here a few years ago, and they said the last study done, if you're 65 today, Tony,
Yep.
over the next 20 years, from 65 to 85, the average American will spend over $300,000 in
Wow.
healthcare expenses. And then, as I was reading the article, I saw in big, bold caps, this does not include long term care.
Oh, so that's just for healthcare costs
Healthcare.
without long-term care.
Now, what does that, break down? It could be deductibles. It could be, other healthcare expenses
Sure,
that
because you still have
Medicare doesn't cover.
premiums. Even
Yes,
with Medicare, you have premiums, deductibles, co-pays. You might need supplemental. You have hearing, vision, dental that they don't cover, and then
right.
of course long-term care.
Exactly. So, about 1.2 million Americans reside in nursing homes today. But
Wow.
let's break down the cost from Kiplinger in 2024. They gave us the average annual cost. And before I share these with our listeners, Tony, I want to make it very clear because a lot of people just don't know what they don't know.
Right.
We talk daily to clients, so we know this information, but let me just tell you up front, Medicare will not pay long term for your
Mhm.
long term care cost in
Yeah.
nursing homes, skilled, memory. Now they do cover you for what is it, the first 100 days or
90
so?
to 100 days, but you
Yes.
have to have had a hospital stay
Yes.
and go from need rehabilitative care. It's really not even long-term care. It might be in a long-term care facility, but it's only recuperation and rehabilitation. If you become terminal or you're not getting better, then they won't cover it or they'll stop covering it. And that's only up to 100 days, and you have to jump through a lot of hoops and meet a lot of requirements. So really, the answer is Medicare doesn't cover it, right?
You're
So
right.
they don't cover long-term care. That's a myth that a lot of people, that's a big one of the big myths, is that, hey, Medicare will cover it, right?
Unfortunately, they don't. But
Yeah.
tell me if these make sense or they line up to what you experienced, Tony, with your parents. And I'm sure, as I was looking at these amounts, I said, wow, they're spot on, maybe even a little bit less,
Yeah.
than what we have paid. Homemaker services, that would be, you know, someone like your spouse taking care of, or maybe a child, $75,000. And like you said, you and your wife, just like myself and my wife, were still working.
Yeah.
So we would actually have to quit our jobs
Yeah.
to offer the care. But then it goes to home health aid. One of the goals, and I think the government backs this 100% too, we want to keep you in your home as long as you can.
Yes. And
Because,
that's what most people want, right?
yes,
And I like that. So home health care and home health aides, that's becoming more and more popular.
right. But at a cost.
Yeah. It's about what, 78, what do the
Yes.
numbers show?
Around $78,000 a year
Yeah.
on average. Now, just here in the last month, I spoke with a company and home health care company here in Arizona and said, what would be the average cost for 24-hour a day, 7 days a week home health care? And they basically said for around the clock care, you're looking at $15,000 to $20,000 per month. I hope I can't hear you, Tony.
Yeah, and
I know.
that's when it becomes not doable, is when you need 24/7 care. That's when it really jumps up. But, having a home health aide come in part-time, and aging in place to a certain extent makes sense, and that's only
Yes.
78,000, but
Right.
it jumps way up if you need 24/7 care. And then if you only need, like, a little bit of care during the day, I know they have adult daycare now, right?
Yes.
And that's not too bad.
No, which is becoming more and more popular, which is great, which will give the caretakers a break. That
Yeah,
average cost nationwide is around $26,000 per year. Still, over a couple of $1,000s a month, which is a lot of money
sure. Yeah,
for retirees. Then we get into a lot more expensive assisted living. I'm living this now with my mom, with my
yeah,
mother-in-law, my father-in-law, and just my in-laws that moved out here a year ago. The assisted care facility, Tony, that they're in, combined, of course, they're still living. They both live in the assisted living care facility, is over $9,000 per month,
yeah,
which, you know, thank God they have good pensions, Social Security, but there's still shortfalls. Most people don't have that much money.
right.
And The average nationwide is about 70,000. Now, my mom is more than half that cost because my dad passed away 3 years ago, and it's just
Mm.
my mom, but still close to $4,000 a month. That's very pricey for a lot of retirees today.
Oh yeah, that's extremely pricey. And then of course, after assisted living, there's full time nursing care, right? The full time
Right.
long term care where my parents are in. And what does it say for numbers for that?
Well, you were almost spot on. For semi-private, Tony, 111,000 a year for private. Having your private own room, $127,000 per year.
Yeah,
So that's
that's
about ten to $11,000 per month.
yeah, that's crazy, right?
It,
I
it
mean,
is.
that's just it's outrageously expensive. So let's get into another myth is how people will pay for it. You already mentioned Medicare will
Right.
not. So if you might have that situation, I think it's like almost 2 out of 3 people who live past 65 will need long-term care now. I think
Right.
the stat is around 70%.
That's
If you
correct.
make it past 65, there's a 70% chance you'll need long-term care. So that's almost 2 out of every 3 people will need long-term care. So how do we plan for it or pay for it? There's a myth. There's myths on how to cover it too, right?
There is, and this is an area that you want to have choices. I don't know about
Right.
your parents, Tony, but I know that there's a lot of different options out there, but you don't want to have to try to find a facility, whether it's for your parents or for your own family, when that time comes, based on I only have X amount of dollars. You want to
Right.
have choices to get the best care that's possible. But, one of the things that I have noticed more so the last 10 to 12 years, Tony, is people that have long-term care policies. A lot of my clients has paid into long-term policies the last 20 years that they had before we met. And some of those are good. They'll pay, up to maybe four, five, $6,000 per month. But the problem I have personally with long-term care policies is a lot of my clients have paid in 100,000 plus worth of premiums the last 20 or 30 years. And a lot of those policies are designed to only pay for 2 to 3 years. What happens if
Yeah.
you're, still in there after that point in time? But here's the biggest problem I have. All this money you're putting into, what if you maybe have a heart attack and die at home and never even need long-term care? You
Yeah,
lose
that
all
money
that
doesn't
money.
go to your wife or
It's
your loved
gone.
ones, it's just gone, right?
It's
And
gone.
that's the problem people have had with traditional long-term care insurance, and that's why a lot of companies won't even offer it because
Right.
long-term care costs are so much, it's not viable for the individual or the insurance company.
You're right. And, I challenge anyone who's 65 or 70 to go shopping for long-term care policies. I would not recommend it. Number one, it's way too expensive. And a lot of these large companies, Tony, because of the baby boomer generation and, you know, going into assisted living care facilities long term, it's draining a lot of these insurance companies. And I see this on a weekly basis. I see clients coming in saying, I've been paying this, Brad, for years, but they just increased my premium at such a high rate. I don't know if I can pay for it or not. Which,
That's been happening a lot, hasn't it?
yes. So what's the solution?
Yeah.
Tony, here's what I've found as I've been speaking to, probably thousands of people the last several years, on this topic and throughout the nation is number one, it goes back, which I've said this many times, people don't know what they don't know, and shame on our industry
Yeah.
for not sharing some solutions to these very serious problems that we're all going to face. And there are solutions, Tony, and we've touched on these before in shows past, barely, but, you know, so the question I, got last week, well, Brad, if you don't recommend long-term care policies, what is there to help
Yeah.
us
What's the
preserve,
what's
a
the
portion of
solution?
our estate, which we want to go to our children and grandchildren, and what can save that estate? And here's a frustrating thing I hear, which it's not a lie, but I hear a lot from our industry and from others is, well, Tony, you've done a good job of saving for retirement. You can self-fund your long-term care.
Oh,
And
well, my mom's been in it going on 5 years at $11,000 a month. You do the math.
so
You'd have to have a lot of money to self-fund that, and then there's no money for anything else or your
no,
family.
but
Even if you are very, very well off, self-funding is not necessarily realistic. I mean,
no,
if you're Elon Musk, sure, you self-fund. But
right.
if you're not, then if you're one of the other 90% of the people in this country, you probably want to have other options as well.
You're right. And just like with your mom and dad, what if they were recommended a different solution years ago that maybe took just a small portion of money, not what they've already spent in long-term care. And what would that have done? That would have paid all their long-term care costs and preserved what they have given, to the nursing home to pass on to their
Yeah.
estate.
Because
And
there are better policies now that the insurance
right,
companies have come up with, and that people are utilizing, right? Like they're called hybrid policies, right?
right.
Where you can even access the death benefit if you need it for long-term care, so you can actually access your own death benefit while you're still alive if you end up going into long-term care. But if you don't need it for long-term care, then your family gets it, right? So
You're
it's
right.
not lost. Is that true?
Very true. And Tony, I'm going to give a very detailed example, which I haven't done on the show yet, but I'm
Okay.
just going to tell you exactly one of many different solutions and strategies. One that you just talked about. You mentioned that nasty word, which hopefully, if you're listening, don't hit mute, don't turn us off. You mentioned life insurance.
Oh,
But
yeah.
here, I'm going to give you an example. Let's say you're 65, 70, 75 years old. There's a strategy called, hybrid life insurance, which basically, let's say you put in X amount, let's say you put in two or $300,000 into this account. That money that you put in, Tony, is going to be guaranteed against loss in the stock market. So your principal's guaranteed
So
against.
principles protected.
Right. Then, depending on how the market does, the economy does, it could grow some years 3%, 5%, 7%, depending on the index choices
Yep.
you have. So, you have an amount of money that is yours that cannot be gone because of market loss that's going to grow. But then you have a tax-free death benefit. And let's say that tax-free death benefit is $500,000.
Right.
So let's say that you get to a point and you cannot perform two of the six activities of daily living. For an example, what are those? Cooking, feeding yourself, bathing, clothing, continence, transportation. If you cannot perform two of the six activities of daily living, we'll give you a form to take to your doctor. Your doctor, after a physical and evaluation, if he or she signs that, we get that back. We send that to the insurance company. Now, let's take $500,000 death benefit. Let's just be conservative and take 80% of that, which would be what, 400,000
Yep.
divided by 5 years. You're looking at, let's say, $75,000 to $80,000 per year.
Yep.
That would be paid directly to you, not the nursing home, not the nurse, in-home health care or assisted living care. It would go to you to pay for this care.
Yeah.
And then what happens? Let's say you pass away in 3 years. That amount that you took will be deducted from the death benefit. Then your estate will get a tax-free death benefit of the balance.
So you're not losing that. You're
You're
not
not.
losing the money. You're not losing the death benefit.
But
You're either using it for your own long-term care or you're leaving it to loved ones as a death benefit.
you're right. And here's another case. Let's say you have this plan and you don't need assisted living care, long-term care. Let's say you die. Then your family ends up walking away with a $500,000, in this example, tax-free death benefit. So that's one of many. There's other strategies that offer similar benefits. Some you have to qualify with your health, some you do not.
Hmm.
But
Interesting.
you have control.
Yeah.
It's your money. If you don't need the care, your estate gets the money plus the earnings. If you do need the care, you're in a great position to use just that one account, Tony, to take care of your long-term care needs and preserve the rest of your assets to pass on to your estate.
See, that's excellent. And I think that's the great point, and I hope our listeners really take that to heart. Now, there's one other factor that I've heard, a myth is, well, I don't need the money to pay for long-term care because Medicaid will cover it.
That's right.
We already addressed Medicare, which does not cover it, but Medicaid
Yes.
does, through each state, cover long-term care needs for people. It can, but there are stipulations, and in order to qualify for Medicaid, you basically have to have nothing or close to nothing, right?
Right. There's a spin down period. They look back 5 years, Tony,
To see what money,
and
and if you had money in the last 5
you
years,
give it
even
all
if you
to your
gave it
kids.
you gave it all to the kids, they're not gonna cover your long-term. Well,
No.
you had $1,000,000. Yeah, but we gave it to our kids. We don't have any money now. You need to cover our long-term care. They'll say, "No, you had $1,000,000. We'll cover it after, 11 you've spent $11,000,000 out of your own pocket then on long-term care, then we'll kick in." But that's so they look back 5 years. So they're only gonna cover it if you have, like, $2,000 or less in your bank account, and they
That's
might
right.
leave you with 1 car and 1 home if a spouse is living. Otherwise, you have to spend down everything you have or have had in the last 5
Right.
years on long-term, and spend down means spend it on long-term care. You can't give it away or buy things and then say, "I have no money." They're not gonna cover you, right?
No, they won't. And
Yeah.
another thing with that too is, let's say you spend all your money down and you still have a home. And let's
Yep.
say you're a widow or widower. You go into a nursing home, they can put a lien on your home
They
as
will
well.
put a lien on it. Yeah.
Yes. So in the last, short time we have, we call that elder care planning.
Yes.
And just a real quick example, which I've shared, probably a year or two ago, is with my dad. Years ago, we knew he had a history of dementia, Alzheimer's. My,
Yeah.
grandparents, my uncles and aunts. So what we did is we prepared in advance, 5 years in advance. So
Smart.
we did some advanced estate planning and moved some of their assets, not all, into an irrevocable trust out
Yes.
of their name. It sat there for over 5 years. So when dad had to face skilled memory care into a nursing home,
Then
when I,
Medicaid could take over,
right,
and that way that money isn't lost. So, and that's huge, Brad, because and that's
yes,
what I wish my grandfather and my dad would have done it differently,
right,
with theirs, with the family farm, because we my wife and I have dealt with this with my mother-in-law. She's 90, has a pretty good chunk of change, but tried to get her years ago when she was
yes,
80, like, "Hey, do you wanna leave that kid to the grandkids?" "Yeah." Well, but I might need it, I'm gonna probably need it for care." And we're like,
right,
would you rather the nursing home to have that money or your
right,
grandchildren? It's your choice. If you set it up through an elder care attorney, you can leave it to your family. If you don't, it's all going to end up going because there's dementia and she started to
right.
have early onset. So we knew this was coming, but you've got to get it done before that 5 year look back, before they start officially needing money for long term care. And it's really important. Do you want the facility to have the money or your family to have the money? And I mean, to me, that's a no brainer. I don't know why
It is.
anybody, because you can't take it with you. I mean,
No.
if you're starting to have health problems, you're 85, you're 90, you know, uh, you can't take it with you.
No.
And I've never seen a hearse pulling a U-Haul, Brad. I always say that. You'll
That's
never
true.
see a hearse pulling a U-Haul. You can't take it with you. And why not set it up so your family can access it, and let Medicaid cover your long-term care. I mean, that's one way to do it. I mean, a lot of people don't like to do that spend down or it may not work out for them. Everybody's situation is different. And on that note, Brad, how can our listeners out there get a hold of you to figure out what they need to do? Or maybe they see their parents aging, or
Right.
they don't want to leave their own kids in a bad situation.
Yes, absolutely. And, it's sad, Tony, not too many people in our industry are having these conversations. So, to
Right.
find out more about what your options are, to be proactive before you get to that state and have choices, have control, you can call our office toll free 888-390-5277. Again, that's 888-390-5277, or visit our website, financialarmorshow.com. Financialarmorshow.com. Ask a question. We will get back. We always offer a free consultation. If you just want to come in and pick our brain, ask questions, we have some of the best, sharpest strategic partners in the United States on these topics and many more that we consult with on a daily basis to give you the advice you need.
All right. Well, that sounds great, Brad. And I know you love hearing from listeners and
Yes.
viewers. You and the team there at Cooper Financial can help folks answer their questions. They're offering that no charge, no obligation consultation. Give Cooper Financial a call. Brad and the team there at 888-390-5277, or go to financialarmorshow.com. Brad, great show today.
Thank you, Tony.
All right. And that does it for today's episode of the Financial Armor Show with our host, Brad Cooper.